Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello. Happy Tuesday. Good morning. Okay, good morning, beautiful people. So, thought for the day. It's a good one. Failure is not an event, it's a process. Failure is not an event, it's a process. Thank you, Parveen. Okay, what does this mean? So, what I have observed with people is we can tend to get stuck when we're moving towards our goal, which is a natural process, by the way. We'll talk about that. And so there's a difference between navigating getting stuck as opposed to building a story around being stuck. Does this make sense? I'll say that again. A lot of people are going to get stuck on the way to their goals. That's just a part of the subconscious mind. Like no one is going to just get to their goal in one fell swoop without any resistance, or I've never seen that ever happen in the human history of mankind. So like that expectation is magical thinking. Oh, I declared a goal and then it's just easy and effortless. Like never said anybody ever. Okay. The idea that we're going to get stuck, and I hate that word, but we're just going to say it because I hear it from people a lot. I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. As if you're like in between two rocks, like quite literally physically stuck, right? You're not actually stuck. That's a whole other conversation. But let's just say you feel stuck. And there's a difference between feeling stuck and navigating getting unstuck versus being stuck and then creating a story around how stuck you are. Yes? How many of you can see that you've created stories around being stuck versus just navigating being stuck? Yeah, okay. Now this is very normal. So this is what I want to talk about today. That's why I said failure is not an event, it's a process. So the one thing I want to say again, because I want to keep reiterating this, because I did a session with people last week that were fairly new, like a webinar to a different group. And I said something like this, and I saw a couple of the women's eyeballs almost pop out of their eye sockets. Okay, so, so you guys forget that you're used to me, but then people who aren't used to me are like, what's happening? So I said to this group, failure is part of the process. Like it's okay to fail. And like this woman's eyeballs almost popped out of her head. I was like, put your eyeballs back in your sockets. Like you need them for later. And, you know, it just shows me that I want to say this because I need you to write this down and really let it sink in. Failure is not a shameful moment. It's a human moment. You adding shame is your story. Like every human is going to fail. It's actually the only way the subconscious mind can create a pattern for learning. Like, but you create a story around failure. That's where you get stuck. Because a child does not create a story like they tried to walk, they fell, and then they told a story that they would never walk again. They just get back up and try again. But you create a whole narrative, and then you sit in that narrative for weeks, and then you talk to other friends about the narrative, and you try to get agreement about how stuck and how much you failed and what a failure you are. And this is what creates the story. Versus like the baby tries to walk, they fall, they get back up like relentlessly until they figure out gravity and learn to walk. Okay, so we have to understand the blanket statement here is we all have to understand that we're all going to fail as we grow. And all the failure really means, what it tells me when you're not succeeding at something or you're not hitting your goal, and write this down with big bubbles and highlighters and stickers and all the things that you do to decorate your notebooks, if you're anything like me, is it just tells me there's something you still don't know or understand. That's it. From an awareness perspective. So it's not intrinsically that there's something wrong with you. You're not missing a genome. You're not missing like a part of your brain. You're not missing something. There's nothing wrong with you. You just don't know something yet. There's something you still don't understand. So then that question can become, what do I still not know or understand? As a scientist, not as a judgmental person, like, what do I still not know? I might not understand money. I'm still not understanding. There's something I'm missing about belief, or I might not understand something about my craft, or I might not, there's something I don't understand about social media, or there's something I don't understand here. It's like, it's just, what don't you understand? What are you not getting, right? That's it. So far, so clear? Okay, now let's look at an example of something I want to illustrate, because there was, when I asked you last week or 2 weeks ago, how many of you are procrastinators, there were quite a few people that raised their hand. Okay, so let's look at procrastination. So someone comes to me and they tell me, I'm having this problem in my business, or I'm having this problem, I can't get to the goal. I'm having this problem, I still keep making the same amount of money. I'm having this problem, I make money, and then it's like I have more bills to pay. Like I'm having this problem, something's happening. I'm having this problem, people aren't buying. Okay, whatever, I'm having a problem. So let's say the problem is procrastination. We're avoiding doing something. Because to be honest, if we drill down most of your problems, they're probably in line with, I'm avoiding doing the thing I should be doing, or I'm procrastinating. Like really, if you boil it down to its simplest, reduce it to its simplest terms, most people's problems are that they're just actually not doing the things required consistently enough, or they've been avoiding or procrastinating. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's just use procrastination as an example, just to keep it clear. So let's say your problem is that you're procrastinating on doing something towards your goal. And the most obvious question that people could ask is, well, what's causing the procrastination? And so you might sit there and say, well, I don't feel like it, or blah, blah, blah. But I'm more interested, and this is where I really want you to get what I want you to get today, is that it's not just the procrastination in that moment, but all of the times you procrastinated before that, all the triggers that have happened before the moment where you procrastinated. Does this make sense? This is my point, that it's not an event, it's a process. It's like the trigger is the procrastination, but what is all of the stockpiled information that you have well in advance that led you to that procrastination? Yes? So it's just obvious in that moment, I don't feel like it, I'm avoiding it, I don't want to, but it's like you've stockpiled evidence well before that one time, and now you're just reacting to that one thing that's a trigger, which tends to be like the breaking point for people. Does that make sense? Okay, so write this down. In all my years of studying this and teaching and being taught and mentorship and all the things we've talked about, and this came up somewhere in the Q&A yesterday as well for one of the groups. Someone said, at what point do you know you should quit? Like you've tried enough and it's not working. And this is what I want you to understand. In all of my years, I have never seen someone fail because they couldn't have it, or didn't. It's not that they failed, they quit. That's what happens. You rarely fail at something. If you keep going, you'll succeed, but you don't, you quit. So that's what looks like failure. We do the whole, well, how do we know God didn't want us to have it, or like it would have happened. We create a whole narrative. We do some thought thinking exercises, and we create stories. But the truth is, I've very rarely ever seen someone fail, but really what they did was quit. Does that make sense? Because the truth is, if you do it enough to its completion, its gestation period, the law says it has to happen. But because you are a thinking being and we're storytellers in our mind, we literally create evidence and stockpile information to then give us permission to procrastinate and avoid. And then we tell stories about the procrastination. And then now we're in this whole storytelling exercise. Yes? So there's 3 ways that we quit. There's 3 ways that deal with this process. Okay. The one is that there's 3 levels. There's the mental, emotional, and physical quitting. And all of those 3 things happen sometimes simultaneously. What does this mean? The mental is the thinking. You talk to yourself. You'll be like, I'll do it later. It doesn't really matter right now. But like think about all the ways that you think and talk to yourself when you're procrastinating or you're not doing the thing you're meant to be doing. Okay, I'm going to do it later. I'm tired. Oh, so you don't even say this out loud. You're thinking this in your head. So there's the thinking mental aspect, which is part of the process of quitting. It's like part of the process of why we fail is really because we've now set up the situation where we're talking ourselves out of doing something continuously. Yeah? That makes sense? Okay. The second and very important part is the emotional part. We're feeling beings. So it's like how we feel in that moment. So very much what I hear people say is I don't feel like doing it. And that is what? The greatest justification for why they don't. And women especially, because how do I say this? Not that we feel more than men, but we typically are more aware of our feelings than men. So we use our feelings not always for the positive, but we use it as a catalyst for why we don't do something. Yes? I don't feel like it. Okay. So you got the mental chatter, which is like you're talking yourself out of it, and then you don't feel like it. And then physically you start to take actions in the wrong direction. So a sign is like you're physically, rather than picking up the phone to have the sales conversation, you're watching Netflix instead, or you're shuffling papers around on your desk, looking busy, doing something that's not productive. Like you're doing something in the opposite direction. So this is all signs that you're like in this process of about to quit. Okay. So I'm going to give you a tool, a really important tool that's going to turn it around. And here's where you have to catch it. Guess where you have to catch the process. Put it in the chat. Actually, I want to see if you understand. So I'm going to give you a tool that you're going to use, but you have to know when you have to use it, because it's too late if you're already watching Netflix, like eating potato chips. Like, where do you have to catch it? In the thinking, yeah. So more specifically, yeah, the thinking is correct, but it's more specifically in the storytelling. When you start to tell yourself stories, you're all very good storytellers. It's a very compelling story. You should probably write a book about it. But Adele, you understand the story. I'll do it later. It's not important. Like storytelling and evidence and storytelling. Yeah, other people can do this, but not me. Exactly. Storytelling, it's no problem. I'll do it later. Storytelling, like people don't buy on this date and this time and this year and this century and this portal and this, like, it's like, honestly, I've heard every story of mankind. Like, you can't tell me a story I haven't heard or told myself, actually, quite honestly. And you all think like your story is the only story and you're only person that has that story. Okay. So when you're in storytelling, so actually for a second, each of you think about, what does storytelling look like for you? What is because you need to know how to catch it. What's your telltale, oh shit, I'm in storytelling moment? So put that in the chat. I don't have enough time. Yes. Lauren, yeah. Storytelling, what does it start to look like? I'm tired. Yes, Kate, that's a great one. Use an excuse as an explanation. Yes, excuses, tired. Yeah. Okay, so now you know you're in the storytelling. I deserve this. Yeah, oh, Jeanette, totally. They deserve this conversation. Not that big of a deal. That's a big one. Okay, and that's for any of you that do that's not a big deal. Right now, write this down. That's a big lie. It's a very big deal to your subconscious mind. It's all a big deal. It's all a big deal. Yeah, maybe it's not meant for me. That's the biggest lie from the pit of hell I've ever heard. And God doesn't want me to have it. Storytelling, like fabricated stories. You're trying to be someone you're not, right? Storytelling. Okay, so when you start telling your story, Immediately. So catch yourself. You're thinking to yourself. That's how you know. You're thinking to yourself, oh God, this, that, it's other people, blah, 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 blah. It's not that big of a deal. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. Yada, 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 yada. I don't have time. I'm tired. The dog died. Someone got COVID. The kid didn't sleep. Storytelling. Catch yourself and ask this question instead. Write this down. What is the consequence of not following through right now? And write out the consequence. What is the consequence of not doing it or following through or like whatever what is the consequence of not taking action, of not doing it, of not da-da-da? And you write it out. So you're writing and then you make some notes. What are the consequences? Like work them through in your mind. Don't just give me theoretical consequences. Like the consequences, I can't pay my bills. The consequences, I can't go on the vacation I wanted to. The consequences, I'm never going to meet the person I want. The consequences is next time I'm going to have to work double as hard because I didn't do it this time. What are the consequences? This creates a different pattern in your mind. Does that make sense? So rather than building evidence, stockpiling evidence about the story, you're now saying, what are the consequences? Well, the consequences are if I don't do it now, I'm going to have to do it on the weekend, at which point I'm not going to be able to go hang out with my family or actually do the things that bring me joy. And then the next time the sales cycle happens, I'm going to have to do triple the amount of work to get the amount of sales I need to pay my bills. Ooh, that's a consequence. So then you do it now. Does this make sense? You actually want to work through the consequences for yourself, because not feeling like it is like it's the greatest permission slip for a lot of us. But the truth is you're never going to feel like it. Next time it's going to be even harder because you've got last time plus this time plus that time. So the tool is the minute you're in your storytelling, like wow, and then write out, what is the consequence of not following through right now? I'm going to feel bad about myself. I'm going to feel guilty. I'm going to have more to do next time. And then go do the thing. Got it? Lay another damn brick. Exactly. This is big. This is a big deal because the storytelling, this is the whole idea that I just started the conversation on about when people tell me they're stuck. What I actually know is they're more in resistance than they're stuck. Resistance shows up like procrastination. Resistance shows up like avoiding the task. Resistance shows up like watching Netflix instead. Resistance shows up like basically everything. So it's not that you're stuck, you're just in resistance. So great, what's the consequence of not following through is what you do right away. Okay, got it? Get it, got it, good? Okay, beautiful. Thought for the day. Failure is not an event, it's a process. So we want to catch ourselves at the process where we start telling stories in our mind to ourselves. Okay, guys, love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye for now.